I wanted to bring you a panel specifically on careers in media, in different areas of media, with people that have different disciplines and roles. So that's why these fabulous people have decided to come today and sit and speak with you. Excuse me. But first I want to introduce the moderator, Dr. Ron Rizzuto, who is Professor of Finance at the Ryman School of Finance, University of Denver. I don't want to embarrass him, but I'm going to go ahead. I've known Ron for about 12 years. He's a senior fellow here at the Cable Center. That's where I first met him. He's, in my experience, probably one of the kindest, most thoughtful, most genuine, giving people I think I've ever met. If you need something, need to speak to someone, need to know how to speak to someone, need to meet somebody, or he's just already thinking about that before you even ask, he will do everything in his power to make that happen. He's done tons of research in different areas of the industry, and he also put himself through college while driving a taxi in New York. So I think that's fascinating. I think we should have him sit here for an hour and tell us all those stories at some point. But right now, I'd like everybody to please welcome Ron Rizzuto and our next panel.
Thank you, Dolly. Thank you, Dolly. As you were describing that person, I had to look around and see who you're talking about here. I don't recognize that person, but I'd like to thank Dolly for inviting me to moderate this panel. You're in for a real treat. Just to listen to these folks we've had a conference call and read their bios, and I'm just looking forward to taking notes here. It's a great group. And our compliments to Dolly. Great program here, and it's a terrific opportunity for all of us to be here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just kind of going to referee a little bit. Let me introduce the panel to you. I'll introduce them and their title, and then I'll let them tell you more about themselves here. So sitting next to me, and Andy, please correct me if I mispronounce your name, Andy Karofsky? Okay. Andy is Senior Vice President of Digital Strategy at Tribune Media, and you'll see great background that he has to share with you. Next to him is Vivek Kemka. Vivek is Senior Vice President of Product Management at Dish Network, and you'll see it's amazing what he's got on his plate to manage. Next to Vivek is Matt McConnell. Matt is Senior Vice President and General Manager of Comcast Wholesale. There again, rich backgrounds here, as you'll see. Next to Matt is Megan McCourt-Merck. I've known Megan before it was Merck, so I always default to Megan McCourt. She's an associate at Sanseri Associates and brings some great perspective, as you'll see. And then on the far end, we have Ruben Patterson. Ruben is the senior video engineer at Time Warner Cable, and you'll learn a lot about him, and then he'll give us some updates in terms of what real life is like. Was nip and tuck whether or not he was going to get here because of some of the technical things that he had to deal with. So you're in for a real treat with the panel that we have here. And just sort of our format, what we're going to do is I'm going to ask each of them some questions, the same question, and get you to learn more about them. And then there are some certain things in their background that I'll have each of them speak to, and then we'll do a little bit of a free-for-all, and then we'll have questions from the audience. So as we go through here, we'll try to get to all of your questions, because I know once you get a better feel for their backgrounds, you'll see what a rich panel we do have here. So without that, I won't delay any further here. I'm going to ask, we'll start with Andy, and have you give everybody a thumbnail sketch of your career. You know, where'd you start and how'd you get to where you are?
So I've worked in all different types of companies. My work today is primarily around how do you take traditional television companies and move them into this new era of consuming video, which is really driven by people like yourselves in the audience. What my path has really been all over the board. I've worked domestically, I've worked internationally, I've worked for cable distributors, I've worked for cable networks. But when I thought about this, the one thing that has been very consistent for me along the way is I've always been in entrepreneurial environments, and for me that's really important. And I think if there's one thing I can, you know, help you understand, or maybe a bit of advice to you is find that thing that is really important to you, that the thing that gives you a passion. It could be being entrepreneurial, it could be writing, it could be financial modeling, whatever it is. And I really do believe you can find that in a lot of different types of companies. Being entrepreneurial doesn't mean just working at startups, which I have worked. I actually worked with Dolly at an international startup. One of the most entrepreneurial environments I ever worked in is actually where Vivek is today, which is Dish Network. It's the biggest company I ever worked for, and also the most entrepreneurial. So I think the message I would have is you know, find that thing that does give you passion. For me, it was being in an entrepreneurial environment, and you can find that in a lot of different types of companies.
Right. Vivek, same question.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Vivek. I grew up in India and had never, ever dreamed that I would be in the television industry, right? I went to school in India, went to engineering school. After my engineering, I did software development for a few years, and then I came here to do an MBA at Carnegie Mellon in '98. So 2000, I graduated and started working in consulting for a few years. My passion was always consumer and technology. I think right from when I was a kid, I knew I'd like to break things open, build things. And so I started working in the mobile phone space. Worked at Motorola for many years in various different roles, right from corporate strategy to marketing to then actually product management. And after many years at Motorola, I decided I wanted to do something different. And I took a big risk. I did something completely different from what I'd ever done. I started doing business development for a water company. And you know, everyone scratched their head, including me, saying, "What are you doing?" And that's what got me to Colorado. So I was doing business dev for this company that makes instruments to make sure that the water you get from Denver drinking water plant is actually safe. It meets all the FDA standards. I did that for about a year and a half. And I think what I learned was all the things that I don't enjoy doing. So it was, you know, and sometimes it's a really, really great lesson for every one of us, because it's easy when you're doing things that the other side looks green or there's something else you want to do. But working there, it was a great company, great people, but I just realized I didn't have the passion for what I was doing there. And my passion was back in consumer and tech. And that's what got me to Dish Network. And you know, again, talking to Dish, I'd been in the mobile phone space when mobile phones themselves were getting disrupted. I don't think any of you here would remember what a Motorola Razr looked like. But when I was working at Motorola, that was the #1 selling phone in the world. Sold about 300 million Razrs worldwide. And then the iPhone came and completely disrupted how we use mobile phones. And for me, the attraction for Dish, at coming to Dish, was how do you change the way people watch television? If you look at the cable box from 20 years ago, you know, a lot of it has not changed, unfortunately, and some of it is changing. And so how do I come and disrupt what we do at Dish? So I truly came in running the product piece of it, which was building set-top boxes, trying to figure out how people would consume video. And then over the last 5 years, as I was telling Ron, sometimes business comes in the way of passion. I've also been building out teams there, launched our broadband business. I manage our commercial business. I manage our video business, and then dabbling in what next for Dish. So what really, you know, as Andy said, Dish really entrepreneurial company. I get to do stuff that I don't think I could have done in any other company before. We take risks. We make mistakes all the time, and we learn from our mistakes. So that's basically a dish.
Great. Matt, you're on.
Hello, my name is Matt McConnell, and thank you for having us. It's funny, interesting as you hear people's story, I'm very much like, where'd you come from? What's the lineage? So you'll know me in about 4 seconds. I came from Pittsburgh, so I'm a Steeler fan. I went to school in Boston and married a Patriots fan.
Yay!
I'm now in Colorado, and I love the Broncos, but you still have your lineage. But my track is, when you sit on panels like this or you think about it, you have to think back over the years, like, well, how the heck did I get here? Like, what was there some master plan? Was there some, very direct route? And there's not. And I think that's the lesson in and of itself. I did a lot of the things, that you're doing. I went to college, got a job. I went into consulting, went back to school. So always trying to do and find the next, mountain to climb. And then worked for a company you might remember called AOL that probably some of you might not remember, which is scary. For those that do remember, we sent out 4.9 billion disks to people's houses to get you connected to what was the internet at the time. So this was late 90s. Yeah, people make tables now out of all the disks that we've sent them. Like go Google AOL disks and see all the weird stuff people have done with them. But this was at the birth of the internet. So late 90s, early 2000, and then we bought Time Warner. So that added a whole nother flavor of just big stuff, cable companies, content companies. Was there for about 4 or 5 years, and then ultimately came to Colorado. So 10 years here in Colorado. Then went I'm so sick of big companies. I'm so sick of just the machines. We went the whole other end. We went zero to me and a partner to start a company, which was horrifying. It was wonderful. It was the roller coaster that people ride. And then we ultimately sold it to Dish Networks. Thank you very much. And I bought this jacket. Hey. I never saw you to thank you. But so in late 2000, it was a software company. We sold it to Dish. And then I vowed to God, heaven, and Steelers fans, never to go work for a large service provider. I'm now at Comcast. Never again to work for a company south of Denver because I live up in Boulder, which is a whole other story. So now I'm commuting to the tech center, so I broke both of those. And the third one I can't share of what I broke, but to do it. But point being, though, the reason for some of those changes is the people, the passion, who you work with, what you're trying to achieve. So nobody would chart that course. But if you kind of stay true and really know what you do like and don't like, I think it's a great way to put it, you'll find yourself in the places ultimately where you want to be. And I've been Comcast now for 3 years. Comcast Wholesale is a division that's not selling stuff to your house. So if your cable breaks, you can call me and I'll try to help, but it's not in our world. We have a Comcast business group that wires buildings and Wi-Fi and places like this. What we do in wholesale is we take all that stuff and we sell it to industry. We sell it to other providers. So we're underneath what they'll sell you. Netflix, we're underneath. Google, we're underneath. When you watch a YouTube video, they're running over our networks. So we're kind of in there. We're an ingredient, but not the brand that you would see. Which, again, is a weird thing. My other thing, and we'll talk a little bit deeper, is you never kind of picked unless you're very, very specific. I sat in on some of the things earlier. If I know I want to be a writer and make movies, that's very particular. I was always like, I know I like people. I know I want to build things. I want to be around people I like. And what we're building, I'm a little less plussed on, is if it's water, if it's a widget, if it's cable, if it's whatever. So, and I think a lot of it is really your passion around who you're with and what you're doing, less so of what that thing is. You kind of have to like it. Like I like what Comcast does. I like what these companies do. But just a way to think of it. So one, you could say I've been very deliberate on this journey. The other way you could say it is I've had no idea what I'm doing, and I just have ended up here today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, very good.
I have a lot less steps in my journey, but I did my undergrad at Tufts University in Boston. I did poli-sci and public health, and then I moved out here to be a ski bum. And then I realized that I really like, getting my hair cut and my nails done and eating out at restaurants, food, yeah. And so I got a job at the Colorado Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing because I was dead set on socializing healthcare. I was, 10 years too early. So I went back and did my MBA at Daniels, where I met Professor Rizzuto and took all of his finance classes. So MBA in finance. My first year at Daniels, I was introduced to the Cable and Telecommunications Association for Marketing, which is now the Rocky Mountain Cable Association, that was putting on a case competition that still exists. I think this year will be our 10th year.
10th year.
Old now.
Yeah, that-
So it'll be the 10th year of the competition. It is a case competition for first and second year business school students over at Daniels to take a real world cable problem and present to real executives, judges, their solution for it. So I was on a team of 3, presented. Winners of the competition win a cash prize and an internship. So easiest job I have ever gotten. I won my internship with Sancheri Associates, and stayed on with them in between my first and second year of business school, and then stayed on full time. And flash forward 8 years have gone by, which is just nuts. But I kind of along these lines, I think what has kept me there is the people. And what I like is building relationships. And so consulting for me is project-based, and every new project I build new relationships. And so while it's been 8 years with the same company, every 6, 12, 18 months I do something completely different for somebody completely different. So it's kind of always changing, and that's what I like about it.
All right, very good. Lots of variety as you see in the backgrounds here. Ruben, please give us your background, and then we'll ask you a question about your technical issue that you were grappling with here.
Sure. So Ruben Patterson, originally from Washington, D.C., born and raised there. And my path has been very meandering and has followed passion, as they've said, pretty much the entire way. Those passions have just changed over time and, on some levels, and have remained very consistent on others. So basically out of high school, I decided, because I had been cooking and supporting myself through high school in the kitchen, and went to culinary school, and then had worked my way sort of up the ladder, did some sous chefing at some 3-star restaurants, and then ended up being GM of a catering company that catered for private aircraft. So I have cooked for the Dalai Lama and some heads of state and a king here and there. And then decided that I wanted to do something different. I wanted to become an engineer, and I had no idea what that meant. I just liked the sound of it, and I knew that I liked building stuff, and had built a couple of the companies that I'd worked for, had expanded them, and I liked just sort of the process of sort of having an idea and sort of executing on that idea. And so I started in technical training, which was sort of a soft skill route to get into the tech industry. You didn't have to know too much technically, but it was sort of my pathway towards Time Warner, which I've now been for it'll be 9 years here very soon, and started there actually as a temp to hire frontline tech support, and have over the years gone through and am now a senior video engineer, focused on the CDNs, the content delivery networks that do IP video. In fact, I was their first employee for the IP video project. I built the entire first generation of that by hand, and then it has since sort of grown, and we tore the first one down and rebuilt it from lessons learned. But now it's a big thing. We were the first cable company to deliver live video over IP to iPads and iPhones and stuff like that. So it's been an incredible ride, and it keeps getting more interesting every day. The landscape is obviously shifting away from sort of traditional cable, and we are right there trying to figure out, like everybody else in the industry, how do we deliver video and the quality and the kinds of programming that people want in the way that they want to watch it, instead of trying to force them into our way. We're trying to be much more reactive and doing it your way.
Well, we're going to come back to some of their experiences, but we'd like to give you a glimpse into their softer side, and we want to know kind of what your favorite video programs are and what your favorite platform. So, Megan, why don't we start with you there? You kick it off here.
Sure. They're going to make fun of me.
And,
First of all, I really don't watch a whole lot of television, which is just funny given our industry. But I have to say Scandal and Nashville are my two total guilt shows. A lot of HGTV and Food Network, and I'm a diehard Pats fan. So, and then what device?
and you watch it on all devices, or you have a favorite device here?
Yeah, no, I go old school, television, although we put in a 120-inch projection screen, Tom Brady, fat head next to it. So we watch a lot of our football on the 120-inch screen.
Okay, very good. Vivek?
Sure. I watch a lot of broadcast shows, actually. I just like to turn on TV at, CBS, NBC, Fox, or any of those. I'm totally old school. I love my flat screen TV. I have access on all of my devices, but still, for me, the TV is the best way to consume content. And the one other show I do love on BBC is called Sherlock. I'm waiting for the next season to start. So,
All right. And Andy?
I like the originals. It doesn't matter if they're on Netflix or HBO or Showtime. I think some of the content that's being produced today is the best content we've ever seen. And I shouldn't say this because a core revenue component of the business that I work for is advertising, but I really do like the ad-free aspect of Netflix, and I probably just lost my job. And I'll consume it anywhere, on any device. I really, I'm a traditional as well. Like I like the TV and I love watching hockey, and so watching hockey on the TV is ideal. But it's funny, in our bedroom at home, we on purpose never put a TV in there ever. My wife and I would say, you know what? I guess there's other things to do, but we said, you know what? Well, we're never gonna have a TV, and it's funny because we find ourselves on different iPads certain nights, both watching TV in the bedroom now, so it doesn't really work. But I don't really care. I'll watch it.
On
On the
any,
device.
okay.
you can watch commercial-free broadcast.
We can talk about that later.
Ruben, how about you? What's your favorite show?
Pretty regularly, The Daily Show, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, a lot of the HBO original programming, and a lot of those series are really good. And I do watch on TV usually with a Roku or some other form of streaming because it's working, I guess. If I'm monitoring quality.
That's right. Video engineer, you got to watch it to monitor,
that's
right?
That's, and I travel quite a bit, so the iPad is usually my second choice.
All right. Matt, how about you?
Well, for those who don't know, Comcast owns NBC, and within NBC, they own the Golf Channel. So I only watch NBC, NBC Sports, and the Golf Channel on my home TV, except for Modern Family I watch on ABC. But that's actually accurate, and it's not intentional. It's not religion. It's just sports. I watch the Steeler games or the local games, or really like Jimmy Fallon probably be the main things.
All right. Talk a little bit about, and Matt, we'll start with you here, about sort of life balance. How do you manage, given all of the panel's accomplishment, you must sleep, and there you have families to work with. How do you manage the balance?
Honestly, I think it comes down to time management. You really have to be good at saying no, managing a window, saying this time is for this, that time's for that, because otherwise it's camp run amok. You can't do everything. You do everything kind of halfways and you get really tired. So we have deals in our house, whether or not it's fully embraced by my wife, we'll we'll see. But, like 7 o'clock, put all the electronics away, right? Let's just, if that's like our time to hang out, let's hang out. If it's weekends and you got stuff to do, block 3 hours to just get it done. Get up and be done with it. Because there's always time. It's a matter that the anxiety comes of, I got too many things, and that schizoness, you just kind of set up the time blocks and say, that's it. And if I'm done or not done, but that's the cutoff, other than major things or things that are time sensitive, like that you have to do now, most of it you can push outside of those windows.
All right. Vivek?
I can't say I do it well, so, but I think, my wife works and I work, so what we try to do, or at least what I definitely try to do is, I definitely try to get home by 6:30. I have 2 kids, 8 and 10, so spend some time with them, dinner, sometimes go out for a walk, and then when they go back to bed, then probably get back on the computer and work for a few hours. So if I'm at work, it's 5:36, I'll put a stop to it, go home, spend some time, and then get back to work. So I would love to get 8 hours of sleep. I think I'm closer to 5 hours now. It's been like that for many years in life. I got used to it. Right. I think in another 10 years, it's probably going to show. It's already showing a little bit, but yeah.
But I'll add to Vivek's real fast. We also are streamlined in our hair cutting, and our showers are quicker. We make up time like you can.
All right, that's there's a method to that madness.
This does save a lot of time.
Okay. Well, Andy, you go ahead. Tell us.
Yeah, my advice would not be to shave your head.
Of course you would say that.
I'll take a little bit different spin on it. It's a great question, right? And I don't know about you guys, but when I was coming out of undergrad or coming out of business school, a conversation around life-work balance wasn't even in the picture. We talked about the one side of the equation, which was work, right? But this idea of life-work just wasn't there, and I think it has become so important. I think it's great. I think for us, my generation has taken us a while to understand it and why it's so important to younger generations. But I think, for me, my piece of advice is you have to answer a really hard question to yourself all the time, which is, what is most important to you? And that could mean anything, right? It could mean being a ski bum, right? It could mean wanting to be the CEO of a company, whatever it might be. And that answer will change over time, and it will change drastically, right? Your answer to it today, I guarantee you in 10 years it's different, in 20 years it's different. And you have to keep asking yourself that question. Because when you know the answer to it, and only you can answer it, then you adjust your work-life balance around it, right? So, for example, if you want to be CEO of a company, it is going to be about work, right? And the idea of having a life is going to be severely diminished, right? And that is okay, right? But you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to go after it. Or living here in Colorado, if you want to have a job yet be able to ski every Friday, that's really awesome too. But you're going to have to adjust your work-life balance around that. The idea of becoming a CEO, knowing that you want to ski every Friday, something has to give. But don't give up on that. Like, go skiing every Friday. But just be honest with yourself. And like I said, keep asking yourself that question and keep adjusting your life and work around that to meet that objective.
Megan, you answered this question, but tell everybody how your life got rearranged in February.
I don't sleep anymore.
Okay.
I have an 8-month-old son, born in February. So let's see. My answer was kind of, you stole what I was kind of going to say, which was is prioritize what's important to you. Prior to my son, although it's still important to me, is getting up to the mountain and figuring out how to get that in. The gym is really important to me. Vacations have always been important to my husband and I. So it's, figuring out what those things are and then figuring out what work you have to do to be able to fit them in. So yeah, having a son really changed me. I did not think I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom at all. I thought I was going to want to be back to work. It's like 6 weeks, and I was just floored. So I ended up taking 5 months off, and I've returned part-time, which is just not what I thought it was going to be, but I learned that that's what was important to me, is spending time with him. So that's kind of how my schedule has been rearranged. these days. Now I'm trying to figure out if it's okay to put them in daycare to go skiing.
Yeah, that's good. Ruben, how about you? Your life balance.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the high-level notes have been covered here. You know, it's just taking renewed commitment to, you know, honoring, you know, some of the things in your life that, you know, really matter. And that a lot of times that means saying no, and just saying, well, I'll get it done, you know, when I can. And it's funny because, you know, a lot of times, you know, especially for me, if I have something that I know needs to be done, it's really hard for me to switch off until that, at least it's at a point where I feel like I can set it down. And a lot of that has to do with not wanting to burden other people or let down, you know, people who are depending on me to get stuff done. But you'd be amazed at how many people are really understanding when you say no. You just say, hey, look, I've put in as much as I can on this, you know, for now. I'll come back to it or I'll pick it up later. And people, at least in my experience, have always been really understanding about that. And it's really more the anxiety of not getting it done. It really overshadows the reality of, you know, everybody is struggling with that sort of work-life balance. And if you make it clear that, you know, you've put in the time and now it's time to stop, people are generally pretty good about accepting that.
Can I make one more comment? I had meant to say that the opportunities exist for flexible schedules too. I know a lot of you guys might go to an office, but I don't. I work from home. Our company's virtual. My husband's in sales. He works from home or he's out on the road at client sites. So we've been able to kind of time shift a bit better and use that flexibility. Additionally, the change in mobile phones and having all my email to my phone makes working from a chairlift possible.
That's it.
So, I mean, those opportunities do exist, though, to have some flexibility if that's important to you.
All right, good. Well, I'm going to ask individually, there are certain things in the panel's background that I'm going to draw out from them, and each one is a little bit different. We'll start with Matt. Matt, in contrast to Megan, Matt has had several jobs. And maybe talk a little bit about how do you know when it's time to move, and how do you say goodbye, and how do you say hello in terms of the new company?
Yeah, I have moved around a little. Is that what you're saying? Purely by plan and by definition. No. I just think it's kind of the be true to yourself. I think you're hearing quite a bit about that. If you hit a point in your career and you say, look, I'm not as passionate about this, then you either punch a clock and come to work every day and ultimately you'll leave because it's going to happen, either by your choice or by their choice. Or you say, look, this is the time I've built, I've created, I've done what I've wanted to do. I'm not the guy to maintain it. Someone else can do that. It's kind of a self-awareness of what you're strong about and what your passion is. And then you basically, along the way, have been honest, open with the folks and say, okay, we built this great product. Now we have folks who are going to go run the product and operationalize it and manage it and do all those things. Yeah, okay, that's not my place anymore. So I think when you end a bridge, I mean, you never break bridges. The world's too small. I mean, if you just look around, I mean, certainly in the Denver community, this is a very small, tight community across media, technology, and entertainment. You treat everybody like you're going to see them the rest of your life, because you probably will, and they understand if it's time to go. And I think what you also do is you build a strong team behind you. You make it stronger when you left than when you came, and so you can go. And that's, you hire people that are smarter than you. You always are looking for, you know, how do you build a greater team? It's about the strength of the team. It's not you, but you'll hit a point if it's time to go. And maybe it's time to go ski, or maybe it's time to shift from, I don't want to work 60 hours, I want to work 40 hours, or I want to work 100 hours because I want to do something else. As long as you're true to yourself, you'll know when those change points are. When you dread Sunday nights and you have the Sunday night blues, you should start to think, like, am I in the right spot? And that doesn't mean leave the job, do another job. That means figure out within the job, too, of getting what you want out of it. Because it'll show on everybody when you show up Monday that you're not excited and thrilled and jazzed on this, and you're just kind of going through the motion, and pretty soon the EKG just kind of slows down. And again, it's going to be your choice or theirs, but you're going to get to the point where that doesn't work anymore. So I would say just make sure you're aware and like folks have said, rethink about what's your passion, because it'll change.
Vivek, we'll jump to you. We're going to jump around a little bit, the panel in the order. But Vivek, you've been one company for a while, and you've managed a lot of startups as well as developing organizations. Maybe talk a little bit about the difference between starting with a blank piece of paper and an organization, and what the skill sets are, and how you prepared yourself.
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to do both pure startups, like when I was in business school, and then within Motorola some things, and now within Dish. And I think when you're looking at any problem, whether it's a startup or existing problem, especially when it's a brand new problem, multiple things. One is you've got to put all egos aside. There's no such thing as you're the VP or the director. Everybody has to put their heads together. I think you challenge everything that was done that thus far. So you start with a clean slate. So it's very easy to say, hey, we do this because this is the way we have always done it. And especially in a big company, when you're trying to start something new, yes, we have years of history, and this is the way we have done it, and this is the way we should be doing it. And that's when you start challenging things and saying, is there a different way to do it? And sometimes that's tough in big organizations. And I think you need good senior management support to be able to challenge those questions. But when you start challenging status quo and you stop worrying about what you did in the past, but what you can do in the future, I think that's where a success for a startup-like company comes. It's constant, and again, like I said, there is no egos. There's no everybody pitches in and does something. You could be the sales guy, but you might be doing marketing. You could be doing operations, or you're at least thinking about it. You don't say, I'm the marketing guy. I'm just going to create the TV campaign. I don't care what everybody else is doing. So truly, you have to get the right team in place. You have to find the people who are passionate about it, who can work with each other, and that's probably a bigger success than almost anything else you can do when you're starting from a clean slate.
Okay.
And maybe I'll ask Matt to chime in. He's, like he said, started a company and successfully sold it to us.
No, but I think that's right. I think that this is where the new blood, the new ideas, your brains may not have the 20 years of experience, but that's an asset, not a liability. We're constantly looking for hugely diverse universes to come in, different locations where you grew up, experiences, ages. You have a lot to offer, and actually not having been there for 10 years and not having done it that way is the perfect opportunity. Like, well, why are you doing this? And don't take the risk, be bold to ask the questions. Because I guarantee you're questioning something that probably needs to change, and we're just too blind to see it because we've just been in it so long. So I'm excited for what you guys are about to embark on. It's scary, it's new, but take the risk because just because it's been done doesn't mean it's the right way to do it.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think that's the best learning tool that I've at least had in my career. Every mistake you make, you learn something.
Andy, you've done a lot of consulting. You have lots of experience where you need to go in, size up a situation, and figure out where to go. I mean, what's key to figuring problems out at warp speed, if you will?
Yeah, I think one of actually, it came from Charlie Ergen, the CEO of the company where Vivek is. It actually was a good piece of advice. I'll admit I got some bad advice from him from time to time, but one really good piece of advice, and he has like 5 rules, and I don't know if he still lives by, yeah, my God. But one of them is do your homework. And it seems so obvious, right? And speaking to students, it seems so obvious. But I can't tell you how many times I've been in a situation either where I've been consulting or I've brought consultants in where they have not done their homework. And they want to be the smartest person in the room, and they can say all the right things, and they have all the right words, but they don't really know what the hell they're talking about. And they haven't taken the time to look under the hood and to understand the entire business. So when you when you're in consulting, or what you guys do at Sancheri, or what anyone does, whatever job you're in, don't just get so focused on what you have been hired to do. Learn the whole business, right? Because you might find that you're interested in another piece of the business, but it just makes you a stronger person. So in the work we do, it takes us a little bit longer maybe than some consulting groups, the work that we did, but it's because we took a lot more time on the front end and learned the business and did the homework. And you cannot do that enough. You cannot know enough about a business.
Megan, maybe you can build on that, the consulting, and then also talk a little bit about what keeps you at the same place.
So I definitely agree, and I love Sancheri's model because we are not a typical consulting firm. A lot of consulting firms, and you see them at all of these operators' offices, there's 20 of them in a big conference room, and they produce a binder. We really ingrain ourselves in with the company that we're working for. So, I mean, there are a handful of people, more than a handful of people that think I work for Charter or that think I work for Comcast, which that's something that I've really liked. As far as staying with Sancheri, I think I have 3 quick answers. 1, I just can't believe 8 years have gone by. Like, it seems like I started yesterday. 2, I work for the nicest guys in the world that care about my development professionally. They care about challenging me and me learning, and then they care about me personally, and they've just become family. And then 3rd, while I've worked for Sancheri for 8 years, I've worked for Time Warner, I've worked for Charter, I've worked for Comcast, I've worked all over the place, and I've never been on an engagement longer than 18 months. I've been on an engagement for 6 weeks, I've been on an engagement for 2 weeks. So it's just constantly changing and constantly meeting new people and starting from scratch and learning new challenges. And so I think that's what's kept me there. Okay.
Ruben, we want to have you speak to the issue of changing careers. Here it would seem like you're at the pinnacle of your former career, cooking and being the chef for kings and heads of state, and then you say, I'm going to do something different, I'm going to start at the bottom. Tell us about that. How'd you do that, and why'd you do that?
Yeah, so I think it comes back to what Matt touched on, is that, as you're in a career and as you're gaining momentum and as you're doing stuff, you have sort of an internal sense, if you're doing it well, of sort of where you're headed and what you want to achieve and what you enjoy about the work that you're doing. And when you stop feeling that, and when you do show up one day and it's just like, and you don't have that drive anymore, it's time to look again and to say, okay, where do I go from here? Because you don't have to be stuck in anything. As adults, as most of you are, I think at this point, you have freedom. You have a choice to make, and those choices, if they're grounded in, in what really drives you, then you'll make it work. You'll find a way. I didn't have a degree. I didn't have any kind of background in the industry, and so I went in through the door that I found open, which was technical training, and then got a certification in technical training in order to further that. And then when I got into Time Warner and I saw that there was a path to being an engineer, which is what sort of the big dream was, that's when I went back to school, and I went to Regis and got my degree in computer information systems there, largely with a big help from Time Warner, because they had tuition assistance and reimbursement programs there that made it possible. Again, it comes back to if you're in something and you're not fired up, you're not excited to get out of bed and to go do it, don't. Figure out, what it is that you will be excited to get up for, because you're not going to do anything well that you're not excited about. It's just, and like you said, sometimes your employer might decide it for you. It's better to make that move and take control over that decision rather than having it forced upon you.
I think, I have some other questions, but in the interest of time, we want to see if there are any questions that you all have for the panel. Anybody? Don't be bashful. You have a great group here. Go ahead.
Okay, so this question is actually from Twitter, and they want to know for Andy, what have been important to you over your lifetime that continues to influence you or that you continue to work for?
Do I only have 140 characters to answer that? God, that's a hard question. I think it goes to what a lot of people up here said is you have to find out what your passion is. And I guarantee you, most of you in the work world don't know what that is right now. And go try a bunch of things, right? And don't be afraid to leave a job, right? You get into something and you think it's the best job you could ever get, and your friends think it's the coolest thing, and your parents are really proud of you because you're moving out of their basement. But you get in there and you don't like it, understand why you don't like it, and move on. And I think the point just being finding those things that don't give you the Sunday blues, that make you want to go. And I swear you can find them, right? And we have all found, I can guarantee you, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I have definitely found myself in jobs I hated. They didn't start that way, right? But over time, they just got boring. And it takes a little while to realize it, but then you got to move on. You got to go. You got to go find that next thing.
Other questions in the cyberspace? Oh, go ahead.
Hi. So kind of along those lines, how do you present yourself to a potential employer with a long history of changing jobs, especially if they're not necessarily all consistent in what they do, or even in the industry that you want to be in?
I'll take a first stab at it. I think you guys are lucky that you're in a generation where that is much more acceptable. I feel like when we were your age or even older, maybe 10 years into our careers, and it wasn't as acceptable. Job jumping was not seen as a good thing. People wanted loyalty. People wanted to see that you were willing to stay for a long time. I think that explaining it why you did, right? That you are seeking to find that right combination of things, the right environment, the right kind of job, the things that you're passionate about, and now you think you have found it, right? That's why you're sitting in that chair interviewing with that company today. It's taken you a little ways to get there. It's why you take so many classes in undergraduate and business school, right? It's so that you can try so many different things, and eventually you realize, oh, I like marketing, or I like finance, or whatever it is. And if I were the person interviewing and that was the response I was given, I would be pretty excited because it's someone that really has tried some things, made some mistakes, and thinks this is the right thing for them, right? It might not be, but I would feel pretty comfortable with that answer.
And just to build on that a little bit, it can be an asset if you present it as, these are the things that I've learned in these previous things. Not what was wrong with them necessarily, but these are the tools that I gained from these various positions. And this is how my background has made me better rounded and better suited and skilled for the position that you're looking for. Don't apologize for it, and don't speak badly of people who've hired you in the past, but definitely emphasize sort of what you took out of those various experiences and how that all sort of culminates into sort of what you can do today. I think that's really important.
Yeah, sorry, I would just chime in with the same things. I was exactly in that position after I did this job at the water company, and it didn't make sense coming back into television and media from water instrumentation. But I think it's about, what did you learn? Did that make you better in any ways? Because you might not have liked exactly what you did, but you would have still learned something either from your mistakes or from your successes. And if you can articulate that into a story that tells the employer, why you would be a better candidate, I think that's a success.
We have one more question.
Okay,
someone's applying for an internship or a job in the media industry, what do you look for, or what kind of things can you do to have an edge as a business to try and get into that industry?
I'll take that one, so I'll start at least. Again, from a perspective at Dish, we're not looking for experience. We're not looking for years of experience in the same field. You'll see people at Dish having very different experiences doing different jobs. When I'm looking at someone, it's did they do their homework? Are they really interested in this job, right? Don't come and interview at Dish and say, oh yeah, you guys are probably the 4th largest, 5th largest. If you don't know your numbers, if you don't know why you're interviewing at that company, it doesn't help. So do your homework, be prepared, know why you want the job, and I think show that you have the passion for the job, right? Because you don't have 5 years of experience to tell me, hey, I did all of these different things. But those would be some of the things I would be looking at if anybody came and said, I want to do an internship here at Dish.
I would just add to that too, I'd be scrappy, right? When you send in a resume to some website, we get thousands of resumes a day. It means absolutely nothing. And then we have guys that kind of go through and vet it, and for some things they look for. To me, the scrappy person goes and figures out, well, who's in the company. There's so many social ways to find out. And it's not, it's not crazy like to send someone a note and say, look, I'm very interested. I saw you at a panel. Hey, I met this person. Hey, here's some things that I'm doing. You now go to the top of the list, because the person you find will say, well, I just want to make sure that I see theirs. Out of the 1,000, I want that one. Now you're half the battle. And once you get in the door, then it's going to be or once you get that face-to-face, then everything, Vivek said, like, why are you here? What's the story? Do you really understand what we're doing? And just be crisp at it. But your biggest challenge is getting that first. If you think of it as stages, get out of the pile and get into the door, then how do you get in the door and differentiate? Be scrappy, go find, I mean, there's 100 ways to do it. And 99% of the people don't.
And I would just add that confidence and professionalism go a long way once you're in the door. After working with a lot of students at the case competition, dressing nice and dressing the part goes a lot further than you think.
And I would also just add to be open about what you're dreaming. Like, where do you want this to lead you? How is this, where do you, where you can see yourself in 5 years is sort of a hacky way of asking it. But the question is still the same, is, where's this person's head at? Where are they headed? Where do they want to go? And how is this position, going to help them get there? I think people are really interested in helping people achieve their goals. And if you communicate what those goals are, then you'll find people that are going to help you get there.
Andy, you get the last word.
Yeah, I would just say also this industry really needs you, right? In 10 years, by 2025, 50% of consumers under the age of 32 will be getting their TV from some other source other than traditional pay TV, from some other source other than Dish or from Comcast or Time Warner, and that is a lot of people in this room. We all have been working on how you do that, right? Ruben can get it to you now, right? Can get it to your device, right? Vivek can build a user interface that you like. But what we are not is your generation, right? We don't fully understand how you think, how you're going to consume content, where you're going to consume it. You guys are so valuable, and the whole industry is changing so much because of your generation, and it really does need you, right? If you do have a passion for it, you are the consumer, you're sitting in a sweet spot, I would pursue a career in it, or at least explore it, right? Because it really does need you.
Well, we're at the end of our panel. As you can see, we could go on all afternoon, but what I would encourage you to do is take advantage of the panelists. They'll be around a little bit, and pick their brains some more, because we've got a great group of people. Please join me in thanking our panelists.